I think I've been in the burnout cycle continuously my whole entire life. And I've seen little pieces of like peace and calm, which is the in-between burnout, but it's very small. It's very short, and I'm right back in burnout again.
All right, Trina, thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you on the podcast. I thought we would start just by asking, what's your history like with ADHD? When did you first find out that you had it, or, get that inkling that you might have it? What does that origin story look like for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm really happy to be here. My origin story is I'm pretty new to ADHD. So I was diagnosed last year, so 2021. I'm a baby with ADHD. But that being said, I have kind of a long history with it, as like my sister has been telling me for years that I had ADHD, and I just kind of ignored it. But it kind of came about when I moved last year. I moved about 8 hours away, and I started a new job. And I was really struggling at my job. So a job that I was kind of perfect. It like checked all the boxes for me. It was the right pay, the right career, the right flexibility. It like all the boxes were checked, but I was like majorly struggling at work.
Right.
So I ended up going to therapy to like deal with this because I was having panic attacks, which were kind of new. I have anxiety, turns out. And my therapist, I was really lucky. My therapist has ADHD. So she recognized it in me immediately and referred me out. So that's kind of how I got started with ADHD. There's a little bit more that goes into that. My sister that kept saying I had ADHD, she also has MS. So she has multiple sclerosis. So I thought I had MS. Like that's how my brain was messing with me so much. Like I had so many concerns about like how things were functioning that I thought I don't have ADHD. I have multiple sclerosis.
Right.
So I actually went and got a brain scan right before therapy started, and my what are they called? The neurologist who did my MRI said, you don't have MS, but have you ever thought about ADHD?
Really? That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that happening from a brain scan going that way. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't like see anything, I don't think, that like brought that up, but I think just my symptoms, he was like, oh, this sounds a little bit more like ADHD.
Interesting.
So it was kind of the combination of like going in to get tested for MS and finding out that I didn't have it, and then going to therapy, and my therapist has ADHD. And then all the pieces started coming together. There was also Instagram reels that I was like really mad connecting to. So it was like all of that happened in the same month, basically. And so light bulb moment when I got diagnosed. So yeah, that's pretty much That's pretty much how.
That's interesting. So your sister had been suggesting it. Does she have ADHD?
She does. So she's in that terrible like trifecta of having MS and ADHD. So what I was seeing from her and relating to was not MS, it was ADHD. So the pieces make sense now. I just thought there's no way I have ADHD. I thought that ADHD was for little boys when I was in school. Like this isn't something that adult women have. And so I clearly have MS. Like it can't be ADHD. It has to be, something different in my brain. So I was on the right path. Like something is going on in there. Yeah. But I did miss the mark for quite a while.
Right. Once you got your diagnosis, did any particular stories, like looking back, really jump out as obvious kind of ADHD moments for you?
So many. Yeah. Mostly school. I really struggled in middle and high school and college. Like I did not graduate college. I barely graduated high school. Just the job hopping. I have been like a serial job hopper forever. Just never satisfied at work and really struggling to get work done. And those two things were probably my biggest ones, but also like I lose my keys and I put a pan of bacon in the oven and leave the house. Like
Right. Yeah.
That's why I thought I had MS. I thought those were like MS related symptoms. So I thought like, oh, I'm clumsy because of MS. Like I was pretty convinced that I had MS. Right. So I was a little shocked when they said no. I'm like, well, what could it be? So very interesting turn of events.
Yeah, that's funny. You say the job hopping. I think I was trying to count recently. I think I've had over 30 jobs, which is pretty wild. And I think that's super common with people with ADHD. We kind of jump around trying to, we're trying to find that thing that seems to fit because we know something's not fitting, and we kind of jump into a job that we're excited about. Like you were saying, your new job, you thought it was a really good fit and you thought it was going to work. And then for some reason, those symptoms kind of crop up, and then we get bored or we get restless, or something really just sort of like thwarts our efforts to make that job work. And then we jump to another job and like, maybe this is going to be the solution.
That's been the biggest part of my life, is like trying to figure out the job thing and like, why am I not satisfied anywhere? Why am I struggling at this? And it came to a head last year when I found myself in the perfect role for me. And I thought, okay, this is the role you've been looking for your whole life. This is like the perfect role. Why are you still like this? Like, what is the problem? Why are you still struggling? So I was having a lot of negative self-talk, like beating myself up, like, why can't you just make this job work? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, really negative towards myself, which led to the anxiety and the panic attacks. Let me fast track to now. My therapist kind of walked me through, like, I actually left that job. It was not as good as I thought it was. Like, it was kind of toxic for me, and it wasn't a good place for me to be. So yeah, things have changed a lot since I got diagnosed, and now I have my ADHD community, which is like a big deal for me. So I'm reevaluating everything all the time.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Since getting diagnosed, you really have jumped in it. Yeah. Like community and online advocacy. I found you from your Instagram, and you do lots of like fun reels and all that sort of stuff. What led you in that direction?
Yeah, it's really weird. I had a friend, her name is Julie Heffeteller, and I have no idea how to spell her last name, but she does relationship coaching on Instagram, and she has a really good following, and we kind of grew up together. And I thought, if she's doing really well at this, like, I wonder if there's an ADHD community out there. Like, I had no idea there was a community. So I was like, I looked and I found a couple, but there weren't a ton. And I want to say you were one of the first that I found. There wasn't like a lot. And so I thought, well, I could do this. I could probably start reels. I'm pretty funny. I feel like I'm funny, which most ADHD people do think they're pretty funny.
True. But most ADHD people are funny. So I think that adds up.
We are. I think we're quick-witted and we're very creative and funny. So it's a natural fit for me. I've started many an Instagram page, many a website in my lifetime, just chasing that career. But this was kind of different for me as far as like, this was for me to start. This wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make a career out of this. This was like, I need a community to relate to because I'm struggling to relate to anyone at all. And then just people came out of the woodworks. Apparently there's a lot of us.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I kind of feel similar. I started sharing my own content about ADHD about a year ago, and just sort of talking on like what I've learned and what my experience is. And I think the key word that you mentioned there, like community, is really what it feels like. There's content creators that talk about their audience, and it never really feels like an audience to me in ADHD. Like, it really feels like
a family.
Yeah. There's such a family community aspect to it.
I had the craziest like epiphany last night. I was talking to my husband about this, and I was like, the ADHD community is not like the weightlifting community on Instagram. It's not the makeup. It's not the jewelry. It's like, we need each other. Like we actually need each other to validate what has been happening. And so like everyone in this community is so grateful for each other. So it's like a different level of social media that I don't know if I've seen before, where people are like, thank you for being here. I need this content. Like, this means a lot to me. My boyfriend's going to follow you so that he understands me. My husband's going to follow you so that he understands me. Like, it's creating more of like a understanding of yourself through other people, and it's very unique. I don't know of another community online that is like this.
Yeah, for sure. I hear the same thing from people that say, I'm following you so I can better understand my husband or wife or child or something like that. And yeah, there's just so many. I think when you have ADHD, especially if you're diagnosed late, you've gone through so much of your life feeling alone and not knowing why. Like, a lot of people will say like, oh, think of it like, I have weird quirks with my brain. Or like for me, I thought there were family quirks. I was like, well, my dad's like this and my brother's like this. No one else I know is like this,
Mm.
but it must just be weird family quirks. And then come to
Yeah.
find out, it's like, oh, my entire family, my mother, my father, brother and sister, we all have ADHD. And so that's why we have all these family quirks. They're actually ADHD symptoms. But because of that, like I think so many people that have ADHD grow up and they just feel alone and they feel weird and different and they
Weird.
can't
Yeah.
explain why. They're like, I know my brain is different than other people, but I don't like it doesn't really make sense why. And
Yeah.
now that for all the good and bad or whatever with social media, like it's allowing people with ADHD to discover each other and find out like, hey, I'm not weird. There's a lot of people struggling
Yeah.
the same way I am. And it's
Yeah.
not just like, it's not the moral failing that so many people around me said when I was growing up, because there was behavior
Yeah.
that I couldn't explain and no one else could explain either, other than saying that I was being lazy or selfish or, stubborn or whatever it was. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think the online community has really helped us to discover like, hey, there's more going on here and I can be accepted with these other people that get me, that really like a lot of the jokes that people will post with ADHD that from within the community. It's like people, neurotypical people on the outside, kind of like don't really get it a lot of the time. Like I'll say something, I talked with my wife and she's non ADHD and she's
Mm.
had a fun lesson of figuring that out because at least one of our kids has ADHD and she's diagnosed, and our other two we suspect also have ADHD. So she's kind of having to figure out this whole wild world of
Mm.
ADHD that she didn't necessarily know that she was signing up for when we got married. And she's been great figuring that out.
Oh, poor woman.
Right. But yeah, so the point is like sometimes I'll say something to her like, oh, I'm going to post this thing about this kind of common thing with ADHD. And she's like, is that a thing? That does not make any sense to me. And I'll be like, oh, I don't know. I'll find out. And sure enough, it's
I do
like,
the
oh,
same.
yeah.
I
People
do
will
the
jump on
same.
and say like, oh, this is
Yeah.
so me, or you're calling me out or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'll post one and I'm like, I don't know if this is a me thing or an everybody thing, but I think it is. And I'll wait. And sure enough, it's like everyone's like, this is me. And you're like, it's validating me. Like
Yes.
I get more out of the Instagram page than they do. And I tried to explain, like people will say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm like, no, literally, thank you. Like you just validated the craziness in my head. Like these aren't character flaws. This is
Right.
it's a quirk, I guess, but it's like we're all feeling these things. So it's validating for me. So that's why I started the page. That's why I continue to do the page. It's a selfish reason is because I get a lot out of it personally.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
And the dopamine. I mean, it helps a little bit. Like I get
Yes.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel the
it's
same
nice.
way. Like getting that validation. A lot of the time, the stuff I post, I'm just like, I don't know if this is just a weird me thing, and it's like, oh, nope, that's another ADHD thing because everyone's kind of jumping on board. And yeah, getting the dopamine definitely is a driver to keep doing that. Another thing I'd love to talk with you
Well,
about. Oh, go ahead.
I'm not gonna lie. I have posted stuff where I'm like, this is probably everyone, and then no one likes it, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
okay, all right, that was just me. I'm gonna delete that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that
Yeah.
finding that line. I think when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I went through a little bit of like personality crisis. What is me and what is the ADHD? And I wrote an article about that, like I am ADHD, because I feel so much of it is just who I am. But yeah, there is those moments of discovering like, oh, okay, that one thing, that is just a weird me thing, which is
Yeah. Oh,
great,
yeah.
which is great to
Yeah.
find that out, because I'm like, okay, that can be a weird me thing. And that's cool because then it shows I'm more than just ADHD, despite
Yeah.
how, important ADHD is to how my brain works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think I'm like clumsier than the average ADHD person. So I have that going for me. And like there's certain things that like I do a little extra than the normal ADHD person. So it is nice to like own something that's your quirk that's not related to the ADHD world. So, we are all still individuals even though we have ADHD, which is important to remember.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I want to ask you about, you've been posting content recently about ADHD burnout. And I think this is a really important topic for people with ADHD. I know I kind of experienced, I recently was talking about how I feel like a lot of the time my process for, I don't know, managing projects or whatever is I feel like I'm juggling chainsaws. And when it feels like everything's about to come crashing down, my solution is to like add more chainsaws. Like it's like, oh no, this
Wow.
feels like I'm like reaching the end or I'm starting to get bored of this or something. And so I got to make it more exciting. And then I just start adding more chainsaws to the show. And then it's just like chaos.
Oh my
Yeah, so
gosh.
I'd love to hear what you think about ADHD burnout and what that's been like for you.
We are the same. We're the same person. Well, that's funny. I had therapy this morning and we discussed this very thing because I'm reaching the end of a burnout cycle right now. And so I'm trying to like prevent myself from getting back in one, which is like a whole nother beast. But I'll tell you a little rundown about ADHD burnout. I had no idea what this was. I had never heard of ADHD burnout until like 2 months ago. And of course, somebody mentioned it, maybe you, someone online mentioned it. And I was like, what is this? So I Googled it. And the thing that popped up was the definition of my life. So I'll read it for you. This is when you Google ADHD burnout. ADHD burnout is often something a little deeper. It refers to the cycle of overcommitting and overextending that leads to fatigue in people with ADHD. It involves taking on too many tasks and or commitments, and then the subsequent exhaustion that happens when we are unable to fulfill all of our obligations.
Wow.
I read that and I thought, this is my whole life. I think I've been in the burnout cycle continuously my whole entire life. And I've seen little pieces of like peace and calm, which is the in-between burnout, but it's very small. It's very short, and I'm right back in burnout again right after that. So therapy has really helped me to like see that and like recognize it, but I'm still like, I'm just now coming off of a burnout cycle because I had 2 full-time jobs. I was doing the ADHD the ADHD page. I was working part-time for my mom, and I homeschool my daughter. So I did the math, and it was like 4 full-time jobs, basically.
Right. Yeah.
But the problem is I didn't even like realize that I was doing that. I just was like, this is all I know. All I know is juggling 50 things at once. And so seeing that on Google really hit me in a way that was like, oh my God, this is not good. Like there's a name for this, and it's called ADHD burnout, and you probably don't want to be there. Like we probably need to get out of that. So yeah, I'm working in therapy to like come off of that, but also to stay off, if not forever, but like longer, because inevitably I will probably end up doing 4 full-time jobs again.
Right.
But maybe I can recognize it and like come off of that quicker next time. So that's what I'm working on. And like educating other ADHDers about burnout so that they can recognize it, because I didn't even know that this was happening. Even though I had 4 full-time jobs, I didn't even realize that was the norm for me. So, now I have 1 full-time job. I do the Instagram, and I'm coming down from ADHD burnout. But just yesterday, I told my husband, I was like, babe, we should start teaching painting classes at breweries again, because I used to do that.
Right.
So I'm like, I caught myself, and I was like, no, we don't need to do that. So my therapist is like, okay, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And just really looking at my calendar and making like really paying attention to my time and what I want to do with my time. That is the biggest takeaway with ADHD burnout for me.
Yeah, I think it's so important to have labels for things. So I think like being able to recognize ADHD burnout becomes so much easier when you know it's a thing. Like I think that's why rejection sensitive dysphoria has really connected with so many people, because it's not even a real thing. Like you can't be diagnosed with having rejection sensitive dysphoria, but by labeling it really, and kind of recognizing what it is, it really helps you to be able to identify it and deal with it. And it's the same with the ADHD burnout. Like you said, my wife had mentioned a few weeks ago to me, she's like, so it looks like you're starting a podcast? Because she saw, something I posted on Instagram. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't tell you that. I'm just going to do this. And she's like, you're kind of doing a lot. And it's so easy.
That's a good point, because that's what happened is my family members and the ones that love me and the ones that are closest to me are the ones that call me out and be like, you're doing too much. Like, you may want to reevaluate like what's
Right.
going on. Are you sure you want to do this? Do you have time for this? And like your wife is obviously very aware of like what's going on. So
Hmm.
it's very important to have someone near you that can like kind of call you out on it, because you may not recognize that you're doing it. And it sounds like you kind of are doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that really helps because she said that and I was like, yeah, what do you mean? What's the big deal? And she's like, you're doing kind of a lot. Have you thought about how much work this is going to be? And I hadn't realized, just like, hey, this sounds exciting. I'm going to do this. And it makes sense for me to do that. And then I didn't really like evaluate like the work that was going to go into it. So through that, like it helped me to recognize, like step back and like, okay, does it make sense for me to actually do this? Should I do it? And through that, I decided, okay, I'm going to do bi-weekly. So I'm going to do every other week episodes instead of every week. Cause before I was like, I'm going to do it every week. It's going to be amazing.
Of
Because I think
course,
I
why
can take
not?
on the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So I think,
I also am starting a podcast. Like that is on my agenda, so there's that too. But yeah,
awesome.
but honestly, that's one thing I love about ADHDers is like we are not afraid to be like, I'm gonna start a podcast. And I'm going to
Right.
start an Instagram. And like, there's a level of bravery or maybe stupidity. I don't know. You tell me. It's just naivety maybe of like, I can take on the world. But I like that we're brave enough to like try new things and see what sticks. And like, that's one of my favorite things about having ADHD is. So
Yeah.
I don't really want that to change.
For
Like,
sure. Like if there was a pill that took away my ADHD, I wouldn't even consider it. Like, sure, I would love some of the negative symptoms to go away, but there's so much of me that omnipotential, as Dr. William Dodson calls it, that idea of like,
mm,
I can do anything as long as I can like get
mm-hmm.
that energy and focus to do it. And it's like the podcast thing. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, they're like, oh, I could never do that. And for me, I thought like, hey, should I do a podcast? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. This is gonna be amazing. I'm gonna dive in
Right.
fully and learn everything I can and like tackle this new challenge. And I love that about my brain, that I just feel like anything is pretty much possible
Right.
if I'm energized enough to like take it on.
Yeah, I love that too. That is probably my favorite quality of ADHD. And I've gotten to do a lot of really cool things because
Hmm.
I'm not afraid to like do cool things like some people are. So like that's something, I mean, I hear ADHDers kind of complain about that part of them where they're like, I never can stick to anything. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I like the trying new things and seeing what sticks. And I guarantee something will stick. Something is bound to stick. Like
Hmm.
the odds are in our favor. We try enough things. Like you could adore podcasting. That could be your thing. Like that
Right.
could
Yeah.
be it. So it's like it did take you all of these years of trying all these different things to lead you here. And I kind of am like a hippie, and I believe in some of that, like everything happens for a reason. And I think that like all of these crazy jobs that we've had have literally led us right here. So I wouldn't really change any of that, even though it was hard and kind of embarrassing sometimes to be job hopping all the time.
Right.
I don't want to be somewhere where I'm not happy. I won't. So
Hmm.
I don't really see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
I
I
think
don't know.
that's an awesome way to wrap this up right here. I'd love to jump into shiny objects. Shiny objects. I love to end the show with this. It's basically just a time to talk about something you are excited about lately. Maybe it's a book or TV show, something that is grabbing your interest and you're having, is just your current
Well,
obsession.
I have two things
Go for
because
it.
we talked about burnout. I did just read the book called Burnout, Completing the Burnout Cycle, something along those lines. I'll send it to you so you could share it with them.
Perfect.
But it is a great book about burnout and how to close the loop with the burnout cycle, and it's a fabulous read. So I finished the entire book. I hyper focused. So
Hmm.
I think other ADHDers would really like it as well. And then my other thing is I'll show you, but I'll explain. I don't know if you remember these pens from like when we were kids in the 90s, as you seem like you're about my age, but it's got
Yep.
the colors, it's got the different color ink, and you click it and like you can change the colors out. I feel like that is such an ADHD product because it's clicky and it's multicolor. Like you can take notes with this bad boy. Like I'm obsessed with these little kid 5-year-old pens.
Right. That's kind of like,
Any kind of like any kind of thing that helps me take notes and helps me do my job, like highlighters and pens and markers and stuff, like is a big one for me because I need that visual, like creative side of everything.
right. Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like a fidget toy built in with like a whole array of pens, but in one little object. It's perfect.
I don't know what it's called. I don't know if there's a special name for it. It's like a multi-pen.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. But I told my Instagram following I was going to look up like maybe there's a nicer adult version of this because this is my
Right.
this is my daughter's pen and she's 12. I stole it from her. But yeah, I'm hoping there's like a grown-up version of this.
Awesome. Well, if you find that, you'll have to let me know, and we'll put it in the show notes so other people can check that out.
Okay, my Lisa Frank pen. I'll share that with everyone.
Is Lisa Frank? Is that still a brand? Is that still around?
It better be. That I feel like that's the only reason I did do okay in school was Lisa Frank stuff.
Right.
Because like it appeals to my ADHD brain. The bright colors, the animals, like
That's kind of I feel like the sensory of the Trapper Keeper when I was growing up was big. Like, oh yeah, that really satisfying Velcro.
Oh.
Yeah, when you open that up.
Ooh. Yeah. It just gave me chills.
Awesome. So my shiny object, I'll talk about a book. I read it earlier this year, or it was late last year, called Hell Yeah or No, and it's by Derek Sivers. And Derek Sivers, he's got several books he's written that they're all, I don't think he has ADHD, but they're all very ADHD friendly books because every like chapter is basically 1 to 2 pages. So it's like really short chapters that are on certain topics.
Well, the title, Hell Yeah or No, sounds very ADHD.
Yes. Yeah. So
that's pretty much how I live my life. It's like hell yeah or no. And yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the subtitle is What's Worth Doing. And the book is all about sort of like evaluating basically when you have all these opportunities, like choosing the ones, not the ones that are like, yeah, that would be decent. Like, no, the ones you're really excited about. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to take that on. Those are the things that you should really embrace and like chase down that passion. Otherwise, say no. Like if you're not a hell yeah, you're a no. And I love that principle. And just his books, he has several other ones. There's like 4 of them, I think, that are all the short chapter books. And highly recommend it. It's very, very ADHD friendly.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm going to look that up. Well, it's funny because I've actually been using that phrase, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, for like 10 years. Like that's been my like motto in life. And I really do think that could be an ADHD motto.
It definitely fits. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to read that one. I appreciate the recommendation. Hopefully, I know I'm going to buy it, but can I get through the whole book? That is the question.
I mean, that's the main reason I recommend it is because I read like 30% of most books. Yeah. But this one, because those short chapters, it's so easy to just be like, oh, I'm going to read a chapter real quick. And then you read 20 pages because you're just jumping through it and enjoying it.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, yay. That's exciting. Yeah. And I felt the same way reading the Burnout book, but because it was just so it was talking about me. So it was like reading a biography about myself because it's just like, that's why I was able to hyper focus on it. So I love when we can find books like that for our ADHD brains. Like it's really nice when you can find a book like that.
Yeah, for sure. And since you mentioned that you're going to be starting a podcast soon, I'm going to recommend a second book that I just finished reading called Stop Asking Questions. And it's by Andrew Warner. And it's basically about like how to interview people. And it's also, I don't think he has ADHD, I have no idea, but it's also very ADHD friendly with those short chapters and like example stories that don't overstay their welcome. I feel like a lot of nonfiction books are like, hey, this is a really long story to set up the premise. And I'm like a paragraph in, I'm like, okay, yeah, but get to where's the good stuff? And this book does a really good job of having relevant stuff, but it gets to the actionable content really quickly. So that's a great one.
That's exciting. I'm going to hit up the bookstore.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'd love to just like, where can people follow you and see what you've got going on?
Sure. So I am on the lovely world of Instagram at My Lady ADHD, which is really hard to say fast. You did really well earlier because usually I'm like blah, 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 like I can't do it. But it's My Lady ADHD on Instagram, and I have a website, My Lady ADHD. And it's just a community, mostly women who are just now finding their ADHD diagnosis, and just a lot of funny, relatable content, kind of similar to what you're doing. But there's a lot more females probably on my page than yours. We just have different symptoms as men sometimes, so different relatable content. But yeah, it's a great community. They help me more than I help them, like I said. But yeah, you can find me on there, and I will be launching the My Lady ADHD podcast very soon.
Awesome. Well, I'll have links to all of that in the show notes. You can go to ADHDnerds.com to check that out, as well as the full transcript. Thank you so much for being here. This was amazing.
I know. Thank you for having me. I can't wait. You're going to invite me back, right? I get to come on weekly or bi-weekly?
Right. Every week. We'll just do it.
Okay, let's do it. We'll just talk about our favorite books and fidget toys.